India ranks number 11th in the world according to Open Door report of 2018. India ranked 15th in the world in Christian persecution according to the same Open Door report of 2016. So the situation is getting worse by the year. But still, Hindu nationalists keep on voting BJP back to power. What does it tell you? It tells you that Hindu nationalism is the main reason of persecution of Christians in India. According to All India Christian Council, there was attacks on Christians in every 40 hours in 2016 in India. According to Evangelical Fellowship of India, there were 300 attacks on Christians in India in 2016. Even according to the US State Department's Human Rights Report back in 1999, there was an increased sectarian violence against Christians in India, where Christians were not finding themselves free and safe anymore. Pope Benedict in 2008 criticized India for increased violence against Christians. After the assassination of the Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi by Sikh bodyguards, Hindus embarked on persecuting and killing Sikhs back in 1984. According to War Encyclopedia, up to 17,000 Sikhs were massacred. Central Bureau of Investigation said to the court that Congress MP Kumar had said during the riot that not a single Sikh should survive. But the court had acquitted Mr. Sajjan Kumar MP of the ruling political party Congress of any wrongdoing, which led to process. So doesn't it prove state sponsorship in persecuting religious minorities? According to US Commission for International Religious Freedom, India stands at Tier 2 position, which is at par with Iraq and Egypt. So imagine the dire situation there. According to its 2018 report, Hindu nationalists were behind the persecution of religious minorities in India. So that's your Hindu India of today. About one-third of Indian states put a ban on eating beef, and it also puts a ban on conversion. So there is no religious freedom in India. There are reports that Muslims were being killed and in most of the places persecuted for having eaten beef. When I visited Delhi last year, I couldn't find beef anywhere. I even went to the Muslim area near the big mosque, Delhi Jame Mosque. There were restaurants, famous Muslim restaurants, but I couldn't find beef anywhere. So imagine if India was much bigger a power, and Hinduism was a world religion in the sense of it was spread out in more than 50 countries around the world. Or what if like Hinduism was the major religion in US or European Union, wouldn't have beef burgers here. So when Muslims claim and demand that depicting the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in cartoons hurt their religious feelings, and we all say that, well, we have the right to offend, then what about India, where they revere the cow and non-Muslims are not allowed to eat beef? So we have to show respect to the cow. What kind of freedom is that? Can you find me a single Muslim nation where you can show me that if a religious minority eats, say, the ham and they will be killed? Can you give me a single example where a non-Muslim was killed or a non-Muslim woman was raped for eating pork? although the Muslims do not worship the pork, rather they consider it to be dirty. But still, non-Muslims have the religious freedom there. Cow protection lynch mobs killed at least 10 people in 2017 for eating beef. What kind of freedom is that India claims that it is the greatest democracy in the world, or is the biggest democracy in the world? India is not a secular country. And look what happens when Hinduism takes in charge of India. In 2002 Gujarat riots, thousands of Muslims were killed, hundreds of mosques were set on fire, with a false claim that Muslims set fire to a train carrying Hindu pilgrims. And who was in charge of the state of Gujarat? The present-day Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi. International organizations called this massacre of Muslims and riots against the Muslims as genocide. Government officials who were rather in charge of protecting the people gave out details of the properties which were owned by the Muslims for the Hindu fanatics to carry out their attacks. The present-day Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was refused visa to the US for failing to protect the religious minorities in India, especially in his constituency, Gujarat. And travel bans were also imposed against Modi, and other diplomatic bans were imposed against the people in charge in Gujarat for failing to protect the minorities. The countries who imposed bans were many of the European Union countries, the UK, and the US. Surprisingly, Mr. Narendra Modi is now the Prime Minister of India, and he was given a red carpet welcome in the UK and as well as in the US. According to an issue of the Washington Post of May 15th, 2013, India is amongst the worst nations with racism problem. India was listed as one of the worst racist countries on the face of the planet. And it was listed that Indians, 43.5% of Indians were racist. You want to check the report? Click the link below. Now, this has nothing to do with Hinduism. Well, it has a lot to do with Hinduism, a religion which is supportive of caste system, a religion which is supportive of segregating people on the basis of a skin color, higher status, lower status color. And they are classified by generations. Caste system is still holding off Indians from marrying one another. And even there is a movement now to stop Muslims from marrying Hindus, because if a Muslim man marries a Hindu woman, they usually term it as love jihad. In the video, you're watching the destruction of the Babri Mosque. The Babri Mosque was destroyed with the claim that there was a Hindu temple hundreds of years ago. Now, only in India, such an savagery will be allowed. Now, Hindus and Muslims are fighting it out at the court after the mosque was destroyed. What was the purpose of triggering such a violent situation where hundreds of Muslims were killed simply because there was a temple hundreds of years ago? Why do we allow such revenge activities to be happening in the 21st century? With the pretext of the Babri Mosque, the present BJP came to power.
I have no problem. Why can't you say that you regret the killings that happened? Why can't you say that maybe the government should have done more to protect the Muslims?
What I have to say, I have said at that time, and you can find out my statements.
Just say it again.
Not necessarily I have to talk about the in 2007 everything, what you want to talk.
But by not saying it again, by not letting people hear the message repeatedly, you're allowing an image that is contrary to the interest of Gujarat to continue. It's in your hands to change it.
I'll have to rest.
And Mr. Modi walks away.
He
He would not show his regret about the Gujarat riot.
You came here happy and thankful. It's okay. Your things are, आपके ideas हैं, आप बोलते रहिए, करते रहिए. 3-4 questions I will let you.
He walks away.
But Modi sahab, Modi sahab,
कल देखो मैं दोस्ताना संबंध बनाना चाहता हूँ. आप उसको कोशिश कीजिए.
मुझे एक चीज समझाएं सर. I'm not talking about doing anything wrong. I'm saying, why can't you correct the image?
This is another interview of Mr. Narendra Modi, Indian Prime Minister who has been voted back to power, gave a few years ago. He's talking about conversion laws, anti-conversion laws, which he supports. And also, he's claiming the Indian founding father, Mr. Gandhi, also supported laws against conversion in India.
अगर हम सत्य को समझेंगे नहीं,
He's saying that if I don't, and if we don't understand what is truth,
हम समस्या का समाधान भी नहीं हो पाएंगे.
we won't be able to solve the problem.
क्या कारण था कि महात्मा गांधी ने बार-बार कहा था कि हिंदुस्तान में धर्म परिवर्तन नहीं होना चाहिए?
What was the reason that Mahatma Gandhi said that in India conversion should not be allowed, or religious conversions should not be allowed?
कन्वर्जन के खिलाफ महात्मा गांधी ने आर्टिकल्स लिखे थे. जहां मौका पड़ा उन्होंने अपनी आवाज उठाई थी.
Mahatma Gandhi even wrote articles against conversion. Wherever he had the chance, he raised his voice.
क्या महात्मा गांधी की बात को हम मानेंगे कि नहीं मानेंगे?
Should we not listen to Mahatma Gandhi?
किसी की माने या न माने.
It doesn't matter whoever else we follow or not. Shouldn't we follow Mahatma Gandhi?
महात्मा गांधी की बात मानेंगे कि नहीं मानेंगे? इतना ही सोचना है.
Just think this much.
और पंडित नेहरू के जमाने में,
And even during Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru's period,
इस देश में मध्य प्रदेश में नियोगी कमीशन बैठा था धर्मांतरण के खिलाफ.
there was a commission against conversion in India, in Madhya Pradesh. So this is Mr. Narendra Modi's stand about religious freedom. Wow. Wow, India, Hindu India. Now, why was Mr. Gandhi against conversion law? Because his own son, Hiralal, had converted to Islam in 1936 at the Juma Mosque in Bombay. Mr. Gandhi, along with other Hindus, had made his life a living hell with various accusations of immorality, and even ostracized him from his own family to force him back to Hinduism. Now, if you want to have a debate about Muslim aggression, oppression of Indian Hindus, let's have a debate. If you wish to have a debate about Muslim invasion of India, you also need to talk about the contribution of Muslims in developing the moral standards of people here. And you also have to talk about what Sufis did to Indian Hindus. You also need to talk about how Muslims who converted from Hinduism saved their lives from discriminations by their own people. We will also talk about the contribution of British rule in India and how it contributed to the amendment of Hindu laws, the Hindu laws which didn't allow Hindu widows to inherit, which didn't allow cripples or the disabled or retarded people from inheriting anything from their forefathers, and also how women were being burned alive along with their husbands, dead husbands. and also how Indian laws were changed to allow scheduled caste people to enjoy better rights, and how they are still being discriminated throughout India. How laws were enacted to save virgins from being killed alive. Tip off for you. The Muslim Mughal ruler Humayun was the very first man who wanted to outlaw, or who at least endeavored to outlaw, the burning of the widows along with their husbands. We'll talk. We'll talk in the next video.